Hello everybody, I'm Bruce, in case you don't know me. I've just finished the first stage of my CNC machine for a plasma cutter. So I thought I'd make a short video to demonstrate, show you how I've gone about doing it. Right. Here it is here. You can see it's working on this axis. And go across here, it goes along this axis too. And then for the height, I have a screw here. You can see if I turn it, the torch goes up and down. Right, now this is how I made it. This is the table that it'll be cutting on. I made it from bits of scrap metal I managed to scrounge from the scrapyard. These rails here that I'm pointing to now are in fact galvanized square tubing, which a builder used for his plaster work. I had to clean them up nicely to get it to run. And then I've welded it on some rather sturdy feet here. And after I did some research, I found that a meter is the right height to work at if you're doing fine work. So I set my table at that at a meter height. I've tried to keep things as versatile as possible, so I can use it as an ordinary workbench. Here is some builder's board you can just plonk on top and carry on working when you're not using the plasma cutter. And then underneath here, I've got an old metal desk which I put on wheels that I've got one of my welders on. Right, now this is how the gantry works. So I scrounged some sheet aluminium here. And I made a sheet metal bender, which I'll show you in a minute, to do those, to keep those bends nice and neat. Here's a better view of it actually. Now you'll see the wheels inside there are roller skate wheels, those rollerblade wheels rather, which I got from the thrift shop for about 50 bucks. And you can see they actually run beautiful and smoothly. This screw here. Time for your gin and tonic. This screw here, you can't really see it, but moves up and down to just the height of the lower wheel to keep the whole thing firm. Now these sections here are made from an old aluminium ladder that my painter left. So this section here is an old piece of the foot tread from a ladder, and this piece here is the sides. And then on top of this I welded some aluminium square tubing on which the top part of the gantry slides along. To make this I got some 8mm stainless steel threaded bar which runs through to there. It holds the first bearing with the bolt underneath, and then the same thing on the bottom. So to keep things neater, I tapped 4 holes here, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, which the threaded bar goes through. Later on when things are neatened up, when things are a bit more settled, I'll cut that off, just to make it look a bit neater. And then underneath here, I put some bearings. Not a very good shot, sorry. But there are some bearings that run top and bottom. Here are the ones running at the top. So it's basically that duplicated underneath, the mirror image underneath. Here you can see it going up and down. Sorry, I forgot to mention that I've kept I've just used some bearings on the side here to make it steady so it runs smoothly. And all I did was pop rivet these 8mm stainless steel shafts in here to hold the bearings. Now these bearings are very cheap. You get them off eBay. They meant for roller skates. They cost about 4 rand a pop, but if you buy them locally, they're looking at about 12 rand. So it's worth your while looking on eBay. I've removed the plasma cutting torch, so you can see the design of the Y-axis. Okay, so what I did was I once again used 8mm threaded bar, and I tapped a thread into that. So the whole action of this thing works on here. So when you turn it, it drags. If I go down here, it's got a little bolt at the top and the same thing underneath. Now for the sliders, I just used stainless steel 8mm rods, and to make it run smoothly, I've drilled out some nylon, which I found from an old printer, and just simply hammered it into the holes there, so it runs up and down nice and smoothly. So now the stepper motor will sit on top here, and it'll turn and it'll drive that screw around in either direction, and thus move it'll move the Z-axis up and down. You can see it moving slowly there. Hopefully the machine will be quite a bit faster than this. But I was actually quite surprised how nicely this turned out. This bar here, once again, I got from the scrapyard. Now I'm driving this with a El Cheapo Chinese. It's a 40 amp plasma cutter. Here it is here. It's not a bad thing. Unfortunately, however, it doesn't have a pilot arc. So what I've done is I've taken another electrical line out here and I've tapped it into the earth. So that runs through the sleeve. You can see I've just got it temporarily hooked up with my fishing rods up there, and it goes down to the torch. Now the torch, what I've done here is I've taken that lead, you see there it is, the green cord coming through here, down here, and wrapped it around the tip there, and that's sufficient to cause a spark to start the cutting process. It's not the best, I know, but it'll do for the moment. To hold the torch, I've got those plastic clips that they use for polycop plumbing, and the torch just clips into there rather nicely. I'll clip it in. Now what I've done was I brought the start button there, just put it on rather with some cable ties, just to test it. And I've had some problems to start with, because what happens is the starting mechanism works quite well, but as you work with it, the sheet that you're cutting tends to buckle. So I'm going to have to spend the money and get a torch height control. It's pretty expensive. You're starting at about 5,000 Rand at least, which is a pity. I'm going to see if I can make one myself. I'm sure I can get some Arduino bits and pieces together and make a part. Basically, what that does is it detects the voltage differential here, and depending on the voltage, it adjusts the height of the torch. So it would actually be connected to the motor. The mechanism would connect it to the motor up here to move it up and down. I might also just do a spring mechanism, so that this torch is on a light spring and it just follows the waving of the steel as it progresses. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with what I've done so far. You can see it works rather nicely, and it goes on its gantry like that. Now I've got most of the parts from China, which I've ordered from eBay, and I now have to get together and get down to it and start putting the the electronics together. I've got an old computer. I plan on running it on Linux CNC because, as anyone who knows me will know that I'm a Linux fan, which is free and open source software to drive just about any type of CNC machine, be it a metal lathe to, as I say in my case, a plasma cutter. Well, that's all now for folks. I'm sure this is a very thrilling video for those who don't know anything about CNC, and I'm quite confident that once this video gets out there in the net, I'll be inundated with by TV moguls and movie moguls wanting me to star in their next Hollywood blockbuster. Bye for now. One last thing for those who are like workshops, I'll just show you a quick view of my immaculate workshop. Everything's very scientific and well ordered, as you can see. Here's my drill press. There's one of my bending machines, and I've got the rest of my scroll work machines put on a big sort of trolley there. Here's my compressor, which works pretty efficiently but it's noisy as hell.